In the previous episode, talking about the custom of fasting during the weeks of Shobabim. Shobabim, again, being those weeks, those 6 weeks of Shemot, Va'era, Bo, Bishallah, Yitro, Mishpatim. I mentioned that there were those who fasted every Monday and Thursday, those who fasted 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, and each thing equaled something else. And these were people that were fasting to correct various avonot, to do teshubah, and I mentioned that this has been forgotten and it has been replaced. And many have reached out to me. What am I talking about? How could a minhag be replaced with another minhag? And this is something very, very unique, and we have to credit one man alone, a great hacham, a very, very pious individual. His name was Hacham Yitzhak Alfiyeh. This is a picture of Hacham Yitzhak Alfiyeh. He was born in Halab in 1878. He made Aliyah to Eretz Israel, to Yerushalayim, with his father and grandfather at a young age. He passed away in 1955. He was well known for his piety and for his deep love and care of the people. He wanted people to be able to follow Torah Mitzvot easily. He wanted them to be able to make teshuvah easily, and he saw people were having great difficulty with this. He understood the importance of fasting during Shobabim, and in fact, he says people can't do it anymore. He first talks about the concept of these fasts and the difficulty in his book SCA Yishak. This is SCA Yishak, published in Yerushalayim in 1923, and he really gets into it in his book Hakuntrus HaYahieli that was published in Yerushalayim. It's old, falling apart, but it's an amazing book, published in 1928. And he writes, and he continues, says, nowadays the human body is weak. It can no longer withstand these fasts. These fasts that people were able to do, and it was so easy for them, people can't do it today. And even if they think they can do it, they have to understand that they have to be extra careful during these fasts to watch out of doing any avon. And how could a man who's going to work, watch his mouth from not saying something wrong or talking about his products, in a way that is incorrect, or possibly tipping the scale a little bit and stealing from himself or from the customer? Because there are so many sins that a person may be doing while they're they're abstaining from food, but they're doing so many other sins, so their entire fast was worthless and doesn't mean anything. And we need to come up with a solution. And in all his study and all his research, he came up with the concept of Ta'anid Dibbur, a one-day Ta'anid Dibbur, which would be the equivalent of fasting an entire week, from, as Orhizi writes, from Shabbat till Shabbat. In other words, from Saturday night, Mosei Shabbat, when Shabbat ends, until Friday night, when Shabbat begins. And he goes, and that is the equivalent of 65,600 fasts. Imagine that. You could do a one-day Ta'anid Dibbur that's the equivalent of fasting 65,600 days. And he was doing this in Yerushalayim with a small group of people, and they were publicizing it, in their inner circle and among friends and neighbors and things like that. When he passed away, his core group of people decided we need to publicize this, and they started publishing broadsides and plastering all over Yerushalayim and other cities, and then they decided to start sending them out around the world. And this is something that went on, and something that we witnessed here in Brooklyn and in many other places, that the association created by Hacham Yitzhak Alfiyeh called Or Hadash V'Semach Sadiq had a general one-day Ta'anid Dibbur every year, and it was always almost always, I should say, the first Tuesday of the month of Shevat. And in his Kontra Sayyahayeli, Hacham Yitzhak Alfiyeh explains why that's the time it has to be, and there's all different calculations to come with that day, and why it's that day, and how it works, etc. But regardless, this is an example of the broadside, the poster that went out to every community in the world. And they used to send stacks of these to Chief Rabbi Jacob S. Kessin, alav shalom, followed by his son, Chief Rabbi Shaul Kessin, alayhim shalom. And they would give it to all the rabbis of the synagogues of the community to publicize this. And because they knew that the people of the community could not do a Ta'anit Dibbur on a Tuesday, they amended it here in Brooklyn to be on the Sunday, usually the Sunday following on the Tuesday that they did the fast in Israel. And there was a special order of reading Tehillim 3 times, not allowed to speak at all, not even Dibbur Torah, not even to say hello to anybody, reading Tehillim 3 times, followed by other Mizmorim and other Pisukim, followed by a Minhag that included Vidui HaGadol and other prayers, and it was a very, very special day. And this went on in Shari Sion, in Ahayezer, in Habab Ahva, and Bnei Yosef, and many other community synagogues. And this is something that existed for years and years, from 1956 onward to our time. It's an amazing way of continuing the fasting of the days of Shobabim without actually having to fast so many days, whether it be Mondays and Thursdays for 6 weeks or more days than that. One day, Ta'anit Dibbur HaKilali, established by Hacham Yitzhak Alfiya, Zechuto Yaghin Aleinu, Amen.